The air in the attic was thick with dust and forgotten summers. Faded light filtered through a cracked window pane, revealing boxes stacked like crooked tombstones. 13-year-old Lily Harper tugged an old quilt aside, revealing something she'd never seen before. A dusty gramophone, sitting proud and alone like a relic from a world that no longer spoke. Beside it lay a crate of vinyl records, their sleeves curled and yellowed with time. She picked one up. Evelyn Harper, Live at the Ryman, 1966. Her grandmother's name, her grandmother's face, young, radiant, hauntingly familiar. Lily blinked, heart stuttering. No one had ever told her Evelyn had sung for crowds. She thought. The woman downstairs, with silver hair and tired hands, had always been a ghost of silence. Curiosity hummed louder than the creaking floorboards. Lily gently placed the record on the turntable, winding the gramophone with care. With a hiss, the needle found its groove. A hush fell over the attic, then it came. The voice low and golden, soulful and aching, the kind of voice that pulled at something buried in the ribs. Lily sat frozen, the song curling through her like smoke. Her breath caught as she mouthed the words. Without thinking, she sang out loud, one note, then another, and suddenly, like striking flint on stone, something ignited. Her voice, her own voice. It didn't just match Evelyn's, it mirrored it. Every tone, every tremble, every rise of emotion. It was like hearing herself echo from a canyon or through time itself. She stopped, shaken. Her heart pounded in her chest, louder. Then the music. This wasn't imitation, this was inheritance, this was blood. Her fingers trembled on the gramophone's edge. Downstairs, the floor creaked. Evelyn was awake. Lily scrambled to stop the record, but not before the chorus swelled. An aching harmony that felt like it was written inside her bones. She sat there, breathless, stunned. What had she just discovered? Who was her grandmother? And, more terrifying still, who was she becoming? What if the voice inside you was never really yours, but the echo of a life unfinished? In the quiet years of Lily's childhood, Evelyn Harper never spoke of the past. Her stories were stitched into patchwork quilts and lullabies hummed without words. But the record in the attic opened a floodgate of memory that Lily had never imagined existed. Evelyn Harper, before she became the quiet widow in Appalachia, was once the Southern Nightingale. In 1964, she had walked barefoot onto the stage at the Ryman Auditorium, 23 years old and filled with fire. Her voice was thunder wrapped in silk. When she sang, it wasn't just melody. It was prayer, rebellion, and longing all at once. Her music climbed radio charts, her name lit marquees from Memphis to Macon. Men wrote poems about her, women dressed like her, and newspapers couldn't decide whether to celebrate her genius or crucify her for being too bold, too free, too much. Then came Thomas Holloway, a blues guitarist with a grin made of promises and danger. They made music together. Then they made love. Then they made a home. And then suddenly, it all vanished. In late 1967, after a sold-out show in New Orleans, Thomas disappeared. Rumors circled. Infidelity, addiction, maybe worse. Evelyn never confirmed or denied. All anyone knew was that she collapsed on stage 2 nights later and never sang again. She retreated into silence. Her final song unreleased, her contract broken. Record labels sent lawyers. Journalists camped outside her cabin. But Evelyn wouldn't answer, wouldn't explain, wouldn't return. Pregnant, grieving, and hunted by a world that once worshipped her, she vanished into the Appalachian hills with nothing but her voice locked inside her chest, and a vow never to let the world take anything else from her. She raised her daughter alone. And when that daughter died in a car accident a decade later, she raised Lily in her place, with love, but never with music. To Lily, her grandmother was just a woman with garden-stained hands and faraway eyes, until now. The record spun a truth. The world had long forgotten. Evelyn Harper hadn't faded. She had chosen to disappear. But the past never stays buried when its echo lives in your throat. Lily Harper's world was small. and she had learned to fold herself neatly inside it. Their home was a weathered farmhouse on the edge of Laurel Creek, where wild honeysuckle grew like secrets, and the fog rolled in like whispered prayers. Evelyn kept the house tidy but never pristine. Every object carried a story, a weight. There were no mirrors on the walls, no music on the radio, only the ticking of clocks and the low murmur of wind between the pines. At school, Lily was invisible. She wore hand-sewn dresses that smelled faintly of cedar. Her shoes had been mended more times than she could count. Kids called her Silent Lily, not because she couldn't speak, but because she rarely did. There was no internet in her house, no phone, no television. Other children posted dance videos and pop covers. Lily read books by kerosene lamp and fed chickens before dawn, but she listened to the rain, to the hush of snow on tin roofs, to the sigh in Evelyn's voice when she stared too long at the mountains. And sometimes when no one was around, Lily would go up to the attic, wind the gramophone, and sing. She memorized Evelyn's old records, the words, the harmonies, the breath between verses. She didn't try to imitate, it just happened. Her voice, once shy and brittle, began to stretch. It curved around the notes like it belonged there, like it had been waiting all along. She recorded herself once, on a rusted tape recorder she'd found at a thrift store in town. She played it back and sat stunned, not because it was perfect, but because it was familiar. It was hers. And yet she never sang in front of Evelyn. Something sacred lived in that silence between them, some pact unspoken. Evelyn never sang, and Lily never asked why. Their love was quiet, careful. A dance where no one led. But now, with the attic's discovery, that balance shifted. Lily found herself humming while cooking, tapping rhythm on the table. Writing lyrics in the margins of her school books, lyrics about trains and ghosts and red dirt roads. She didn't know what she was becoming, but the hunger was growing. A voice like that didn't want to stay hidden, and she was beginning to wonder, what if silence wasn't protection but a cage? Sometimes the quietest places hold the loudest dreams, just waiting to be sung. The flyer came folded inside a library book, taped to the final page like a forgotten treasure. It was bold, colorful, and entirely out of place in Lily's muted world. Tennessee Rising Voices, statewide youth talent showcase. Age 12-18, live auditions, Nashville. She stared at the words until they blurred. The prize wasn't money, it wasn't fame, it was stage time, a chance to stand before an audience, under real lights, and sing without shadows. Just once. Her fingers trembled as she tore out the flyer and stuffed it into her satchel. That night, Lily couldn't sleep. Evelyn sat downstairs, crocheting by the fire. The radio remained off. Silence pressed against the windows like snow. Lily snuck into the attic. With only a flashlight and her grandfather's tape recorder, she chose a song, an old aching ballad from Evelyn's debut album. She rewrote one verse, just slightly, making it hers. Then she pressed record. The moment she opened her mouth, everything stilled. Her voice filled the room like rising smoke, delicate, dangerous, uncontainable. She didn't just sing the melody, she lived it. Let it thread through her ribs and out of her throat like it had always been there, waiting for this night. When she finished, she sat in the darkness, shaking. It felt like flying. She mailed the tape the next morning, wrapped in newspaper, addressed in block letters. She told Evelyn it was for a school project, a little lie, one that felt harmless, one that gave her permission to hope. Weeks passed. Then an envelope arrived, cream-colored with elegant lettering. Congratulations, you've been selected to audition live in Nashville. Lily's chest tightened. She couldn't breathe, couldn't speak. Nashville. Just the name felt like thunder. It was where Evelyn started, where Evelyn ended. She hid the letter under her mattress. But that night at dinner, her hand shook so badly she spilled soup. Evelyn noticed. Her eyes, always calm, narrowed like they saw more than she let on. Something wrong, sweetheart? She asked softly. Lily forced a smile. Just tired, that's all. Another lie, because beneath that smile her heart was screaming, I have to go. I have to know who I am. Even if it means breaking everything you've tried to protect. What happens when your first real choice is also the one that could shatter the only home you've ever known? The envelope didn't stay hidden for long. Evelyn found it 3 days later, tucked inside Lily's pillowcase. She didn't say anything at first, just sat at the table, reading the letter over and over, the edges trembling in her worn fingers. When Lily came home from school that afternoon, she knew something had shifted. The door creaked louder, the silence was thicker, and Evelyn was waiting in the parlor, letter in hand, expression unreadable. Sit, she said. Lily obeyed, heart pounding like a snare drum. Evelyn laid the letter between them on the table, like evidence in a trial. You lied to me. Lily opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Her throat was dry, her eyes burned. You used my voice, Evelyn said quietly, and sent it into a world you don't understand. I didn't mean to lie, Lily whispered. I needed to know. If I am, Evelyn cut her off, voice sharper than Lily had ever heard. You think because you can match a melody that you're ready for that life? You think I left it behind because it was too quiet? She stood, pacing now, hands trembling with rage or fear. Lily couldn't tell that life devoured me. It chewed me up and spat me into the dirt. I lost your grandfather in that world. I lost my voice. I lost myself. Lily stood too. But I'm not you. That sentence cracked the room open. Evelyn turned slowly, eyes wet, jaw clenched. No, you're not, but you have my voice, and that means you'll carry every curse that came with it. They stared at each other. Grandmother and granddaughter, generations stitched together by a song neither chose. I didn't want to hide forever, Lily said, voice breaking. But you made silence feel like safety. And it was, Evelyn snapped. You don't understand what happens when the world owns your voice, when strangers decide who you are based on a song. I wasn't Evelyn Harper anymore. I was just the girl who sang pretty and bled prettier. Lightning flashed outside. A storm was rolling in. Evelyn turned away, walked to the old gramophone, and in one swift, breathless motion, smashed it to the floor. The shatter of wood and metal rang louder than thunder. Lily flinched. Tears filled her eyes. That wasn't just a gramophone, it was hers. Her discovery, her proof, and now it lay broken at her feet. You want the stage, Evelyn whispered. Then go. But don't expect applause to feel like love. Lily stood frozen, her voice gone, her heart split. She didn't sleep that night. She just lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling, wondering, what if the only way to sing was to leave the one person who taught you silence? Sometimes to find your voice, you have to break the silence. And your own heart. Lily left before the sun rose. She packed lightly. A small satchel, the letter, a change of clothes, the broken record sleeve she couldn't bear to part with. No phone to call anyone, no map, just the memory of road signs and the name, Nashville. She slipped out the kitchen door, boots crunching softly against frostbitten grass. The air was sharp, sky turning silver. She didn't leave a note. What could she possibly say? She just left. The mountain roads were quiet. She caught a ride with a bread delivery man, then a couple headed south. No one asked too many questions. Just a girl with a determined face and a voice she hadn't yet used. Meanwhile, back at Laurel Creek, Evelyn stood in the middle of the parlor, holding the shattered gramophone in her lap like a body at a funeral. She hadn't meant to break it. Not really. The anger had risen like a wave, but what she felt now was the undertow, pulling her under into something worse. Regret. The silence in the house felt different now, not chosen, not safe, just empty. She found the tape recorder on Lily's shelf. Fingers shaking, she pressed play, and then she heard it. Her voice. No, Lily's. But it moved like hers once did, carried pain like hers never could, softer in places, sharper in others, herself, but new. A tear slid down Evelyn's cheek. Then, another. She listened to the whole song twice. Then she walked to the mirror in the hallway, one she hadn't looked into for years, and stared. Not at the wrinkles or gray, at the fire still burning behind her eyes, and for the first time in 4 decades, Evelyn Harper sang. Not out loud. Not fully, just under her breath. Just enough to feel the embers shift. Back on the road, Lily reached the city as dusk colored the sky burnt orange. She stepped off the bus into chaos. Horns, neon, strangers who didn't know her name. She walked toward the address on the envelope, her satchel tugging at her shoulder. Heart heavy but fierce. She was terrified. Alone. But there was a strange lightness to it, like standing at the edge of a cliff with wings you hadn't realized were yours. Sometimes the voice you're searching for doesn't rise from safety, but from the edge of everything you thought you knew. The streets of Nashville shimmered under the twilight like strings on a steel guitar. Every corner hummed with music, some real, some rehearsed, all pulsing with the hunger of people trying to be heard. Lily walked the avenue with wide eyes and quiet footsteps. Her boots felt too loud. Her clothes, flannel, faded denim, belonged to a different world. But she didn't look down. She held that envelope like a compass. The audition hall stood at the end of a long boulevard lined with bars and dreams. It wasn't glamorous, just a plain brick building with a neon sign that flickered like it couldn't decide whether to hope or give up. Inside, fluorescent lights hummed. Teenagers lined the hallway, dressed like stars already. Sequins, eyeliner, confidence like perfume. They laughed easily, practiced riffs under their breath. One girl did vocal runs like she was already on national television. Lily shrank into her seat in the corner, clutching her satchel. She had no music sheet, no vocal coach, no stage mom pacing nearby, just the letter and the fire in her chest. A clipboard woman called her name. Lily Harper? She stood, her voice caught in her throat. She nodded. The room was small, cold, and full of strangers. 3 judges at a table, a mic stand, a guitar in the corner she wouldn't touch, just her voice, her breath. They asked her name again, where she was from. She barely got the words out, then they said, "Whenever you're ready." She closed her eyes, and in that silence, heavy and waiting, she remembered Evelyn's living room, the gramophone spinning, the way the notes moved through her blood. She opened her mouth and sang. No flourishes, no show, just truth. The first note wavered, the second held. By the third, the air changed. The room leaned in. One of the judges stopped writing. The woman with the clipboard looked up. Lily didn't just carry the melody, she lived it. It wasn't polished, but it was raw, honest. It meant something. When she finished, no one clapped. They just stared. Then someone whispered, "She sounds like Evelyn Harper." And Lily smiled. Not because they recognized her voice, but because for the first time, she didn't need them to. In a city built on noise, sometimes the quietest voice is the one that changes everything. The applause never came. After the audition, the room emptied like someone pulled the plug on gravity. The clipboard woman nodded politely. One of the judges muttered something about raw potential. Another said, "She's not ready." Just loud enough for Lily to hear. She stepped into the hallway, heart tight, hands clammy. The other contestants passed her by, laughter sharp and effortless. Someone offered her a pitying smile. Someone else didn't look at her at all. By the time she reached the sidewalk, it was dark again. Nashville no longer shimmered. It pressed down, bright, loud, fast. She had no hotel, no plan. Just $20 and a bus ticket back that didn't feel like a way home, just a defeat with wheels. She sat on a bench under a broken street lamp, trying not to cry. But the tears came anyway, quiet, steady, not dramatic, just tired, deep. Maybe Evelyn was right. Maybe love wasn't applause. Maybe truth wasn't enough, and just as she thought she might disappear into that bench, that street, that failure, she heard it. A voice. Low, familiar, worn like river rock. "Mind if I sit?" Lily looked up. It was Evelyn, in her Sunday coat, hair tied back, eyes soft but fierce. Lily couldn't speak. Evelyn didn't ask what happened, didn't scold. She just sat beside her, looking out into the city. For a long time, neither said anything. Then, Evelyn pulled something from her bag, a harmonica, bent, old. She held it out. "I bought this for Thomas the day before he left," she said. "Never had the heart to throw it away." Lily stared. "You came all this way." "I came because I heard your voice on that tape, and I remembered who I was before the world told me to forget." Evelyn turned to her. "You're not me, Lily. You never were. You've got my voice, but it moves like your own. Softer in the sorrow, sharper in the joy." She placed the harmonica in Lily's lap. "And I'd rather lose my silence than let you lose yourself." Lily looked at the city, then at her grandmother. Then she sang, not loud, not perfect. Just a hum at first. Evelyn joined in. Two voices, one scarred, one searching. Rising in harmony, neither had rehearsed. That bench became a stage, that song, a bridge. And somewhere between the city noise and their soft duet, Lily wasn't broken. Anymore, she was becoming. Sometimes rebirth isn't loud, sometimes it's two broken hearts singing each other whole again. The clip was only 90 seconds long. A teenager and an old woman sitting on a cracked city bench, singing a duet under a flickering street lamp. The harmony was imperfect, the camera angle shaky, but the emotion, undeniable. Someone had filmed, and he posted it. By morning, it had gone viral. 2 generations, one voice. Is this the granddaughter of Evelyn Harper? The Appalachian echo. Lily Harper breaks the internet with raw, unfiltered talent. Phones rang in places Lily had never imagined. Talent scouts, journalists, record labels that once rejected Evelyn now begged for a meeting with her heir. But Lily wasn't in a rush. She went home first, back to Laurel Creek, where the trees knew her name and the wind carried old songs. Evelyn restored the gramophone. They listened to records over hot tea. They sang in the kitchen, the garden, the old church on Sundays. Then one morning, a man in a tailored suit arrived with a contract worth $1 million. A full album. And Chotner. Distribution, tour potential. It was everything most singers dreamed of. Evelyn watched from the porch as Lily sat across the table from the man, fingers tracing the edge of the paperwork. Her heart thundered. She thought of her mother, the attic, the harmonica. She thought of silence. "I'm honored," Lily said softly, "but I can't sign this, not yet." The man blinked. "Why not?" "Because I haven't written my first song yet," she replied. "And if I don't start there, then none of this means anything." He left with the briefcase unopened. News outlets spun the story. Teen country prodigy turns down fame. Some called it foolish, others called it brave. Evelyn said nothing, just smiled like someone who had once made a different choice, and now lived to see it reversed. Weeks passed. Then Lily did what no one expected. She released her first track, not through a label, but on her own. It was a song called "The Fire and the Echo," a reimagined version of Evelyn's unreleased final ballad, this time with new lyrics, new verses, one voice trembling with youth, another grounding it with age. It exploded, not because it was trendy, but because it was true. And in that truth, 1 million strangers found something of themselves. Lily didn't become famous overnight, but she became known, in the way that matters. Not as Evelyn's shadow, but as her own flame. The world will open its doors to you, but only when you stop knocking with someone else's hand. A year passed, not fast, not loud, but full. Lily didn't take the stage in stadiums, not yet. She played in town halls, school auditoriums, folk festivals with hay bales for chairs and twinkle lights strung between trees. She sang barefoot under stars and in coffee shops where the mic was older than she was. Evelyn was with her for every note, sometimes behind the scenes, sometimes beside her on stage. but always there, as mentor, as grandmother, as woman who once gave everything to the world and now gave something even rarer, herself. They turned the old barn behind the farmhouse into a recording studio. It wasn't fancy. There were still cobwebs in the rafters and raccoons in the walls, but it held magic because it held truth. That's where Lily recorded her debut album, 12 songs written by hand, each one braided with the sounds of Appalachia and the ache of coming of age. No auto-tune, no polished veneers, just breath and blood and story. The final track was called Home is a Hollow with a Voice Inside. And when she sang it live for the first time, Evelyn stood in the front row, tears running down the same cheeks that once held every secret. It was more than music. It was memory. It was forgiveness. It was a girl who found her voice not in defiance but in return, and the world responded, not with screams, but with stillness, with people who paused their scrolling, their errands, their noise, and just listened. Because the best stories don't demand attention, they earn it. The best voices aren't perfect, they're honest, and Lily Harper's voice, weathered, rising, unmistakably her own, became something more than talent. It became testament, a reminder that you don't have to run from your roots to grow, that your grandmother's silence might hold songs you haven't yet written, that the attic you fear might be the birthplace of everything you need to become. So maybe you've got a voice you've kept hidden. Maybe there's a song in you that no one's heard, not because it isn't beautiful, but because you were waiting for permission. Let Lily's story be that permission. Find the attic. Dust off the vinyl. Sit with your ghosts and sing anyway. Share this story with someone who needs to remember that inheritance isn't always blood. Sometimes it's fire. Sometimes it's silence. And sometimes it's a note that waits 40 years to find its echo. But when it does, don't let it go unheard. Mini hook, final fade out. Because maybe the voice that will change your world is already humming inside you, waiting for the right silence to break.